know it's that type of day. Right as the music was playing to start hour number 2, I used my talk back button here to tell producer Dylan, listen, I've just got that feeling in my gut that something's going to happen here, so just do me a favor, keep an eye on everything, because it just feels like there's a lot of just stuff leaking out left and right to where something could be percolating here in the next couple of hours. So for the last hour that we are on the air here today, I got producer Dylan keeping an eye on it. And I've got 4 screens in here that I'll try to keep an eye on as well. But welcome back in, hour number 2 of the lunch break. KDUS AM 1060, the KDUS AM 1060 app, and on the KDUS AM 1060 YouTube channel. Let's talk about the actual basketball of it all now, because we spent hour number 1 hypotheticals, trades in the NBA, barely touched on the Suns' performance over the weekend, but they've got 4 games this week. They're at Portland, they're at Oklahoma City, they're home against Utah, and they're home against Denver. That is the schedule that is in front of them this week, those 4 games. And I think if you look at those 4 games in a vacuum, you would say 2 games against high-quality Western Conference opponents in Denver and Oklahoma City, and then you would look and say those are 2 very winnable games. Those are 2 10 out of 10 importance because of who they're playing in Portland and Utah. So they're going to start tonight at Portland. They're then going to travel to play Oklahoma City. And they come back home to face Utah and Denver over the weekend. So when we get back here on Monday, another 4-game chunk will be in the books, and we will have another piece of this puzzle for the Suns solved. And also we'll have the trade deadline that comes and goes on Thursday. We'll get to react to it all on Friday. What do we need to see from the Suns this week? And I want to get out in front of this, right? I want to put our prediction and our thoughts on the record before the week gets underway. They've got 4 big games. Truthfully, I look at this and I see 2-2 written all over this. I see you beat Utah, you beat Portland tonight, and you're going to struggle against Oklahoma City, and you're going to struggle against Denver, and it's going to be a 2-2 week. And the more of those 500 weeks that you stack together, you don't gain any ground. You're not moving anywhere. You're not changing our feelings on you as a basketball team. If you continue week in and week out to just go 2-2, and no matter what configuration it is, if it's just 500 every week, and you're not really gaining ground in the standings, but you're not really losing ground in the standings either, you're just hovering around 500, this season's going to slip away from you. This team has the hardest schedule in the NBA. If you just keep stacking up weeks where you go 500, at some point the dam is going to break here, and you're going to play all these bad teams, and you're going to go on a run, because this is a nice week. This is a week where, of the 4 games, you've got 2 games that I look at and say, you can win these. You should win these. You should beat Utah. You should beat Portland. I should not have a notebook full of notes here of how poorly you played on Saturday against Portland. I shouldn't have notes that you had 7 first-half turnovers, that you allowed a 15-4 run to end the first half, and then you came out in the third quarter, and while Devin Booker was lighting it up, you couldn't play defense. And you rolled out the red carpet for DeAndre Ayton. We'll get to him here in a little bit. So you got Portland and Utah. You should win those games. Denver, Oklahoma City, those are going to be challenges. But guess what? I just saw you beat the Golden State Warriors on Friday night. I watched you last Monday beat the Clippers. So could you hang with Denver? Potentially. I don't think you're hanging with Oklahoma City. It's just not happening. I am not there yet with this team. Oklahoma City is the top of the West for a reason. They have been playing excellent basketball. The Suns are not there yet. The Suns' litmus test teams are the 3 teams they played last week before Portland. Like Golden State, Minnesota, Dallas to a certain extent. Those are the teams that are in the same stratosphere as the Phoenix Suns. Those are the teams I want to compare the Suns to. I don't need to compare the Suns to the Oklahoma City Thunder. I know where they stand in that battle. I know where the Suns are. I know who the Thunder are. That's not going to be pretty this week. So in an ideal world, you win the 2 winnable, Portland and Utah, and you find a way to steal me Denver. Now, I don't think you're going to do that based on what I've seen so far, but that's your way. You have a 3-1 week and you have a 3-1 week that means you beat Portland, you beat Utah, you beat Denver. You had a 2-2 week last week. You beat LA, you beat Golden State, you lost to Minnesota, you lost to Portland. You went 2-2, and it's a mixed bag. I like your wins. I don't love your loss to Portland. If you go 3-1 this week, I'm going to like everything that you've done. I'm going to like that entire resume because it's going to include a win over one of these good teams. It's going to include you beating at least one of Oklahoma City in Oklahoma City or beating Denver. But 2-2 is kind of the bare minimum. And if you do any worse than that, all bets are off. What is this team right now? This team is a 500 middle-of-the-road basketball team. It's what they are. They showed that to you last week. I hope that they don't continue to show it to you tonight. I hope they start this week off on a good foot. I hope they start this week off with a win at Portland to set the tone for the rest of the week. But I think we are at a place now where this is how we have to look at the Phoenix Suns schedule. We look at it in week-by-week chunks. And this week sets up well for them. 2 good teams and 2 teams that they should be able to beat. That's how this chunk lines up. Now, the chunks are not going to get any easier. I am pulling up the Phoenix Suns schedule to show you what the next chunks are. This week, it's Portland, Oklahoma City, Utah, Denver. And then next week, this is next week for the Phoenix Suns. Memphis, at Houston, at San Antonio, at Chicago, at Toronto. That's their next week. They play 5 next week. And I got to tell you, Chicago and Toronto on the road, I don't care that they're on the road. You got to have those ones. Because Memphis, Houston, San Antonio now after getting De'Aaron Fox, that's a problem for the Suns. That's a problem. Your first 3 games next week, Memphis at home, at Houston, at San Antonio, good luck. If you play the way that you played on Saturday against Portland, good luck. But here's the part that should frustrate us all. If you play the way you played on Friday against Golden State, you could win all 3 of those games. If you play the way that you played against Golden State on Friday, you can beat Denver. You can beat Utah. You can beat Portland. You can have a 3-1 week. I've seen it. I've watched you play that type of basketball. But then I've watched you play the most frustrating type of basketball. Turnovers, bad defense, just the epitome of giving games away. You had the emotional high of beating Golden State. Devin Booker with an awesome performance, another 30 spot in that game on Friday, 31 points. Responding to being, quote-unquote, snubbed to be an all-star reserve. And you beat Golden State by 25 in Golden State. We said it to you on Friday. We said, these are 2 teams that if they look in the mirror, they're very similar to one another. The only difference is Golden State's got the hardware. And you know what? You went out there against a team that you guys are in a similar crossroads, and you said, nuh-uh, not us. And you took it to them. And you played a good second half. And you came out in the third quarter with your hair on fire. And you went on that run that we've asked you to go on. You've built a halftime lead, lean on a team to start the second half, lean on a team to start the third quarter. It's exactly what you did. You beat them by 25. I want to check the actual numbers on this just to make sure. Kevin Durant only had to play 29 minutes on Friday. So think about this for a second. You play on Friday. Now you're playing a back-to-back in Golden State. Then you got to go directly to Portland. And you kind of look at Portland like, okay, easy opponent for you relative to Golden State, but it's a back-to-back after traveling to Golden State, and then you got to immediately travel to Portland. That's a sneaky trap game for you. And then what did you get to do? Kevin Durant only had to play 29 minutes, so there shouldn't be a tiredness excuse. You got to just unload the bench. Everybody played in that game on Friday except Jusuf Nurkic. Everybody. Colin Gillespie got 4 minutes in the game. So you then go to Portland. Kevin Durant played less than 30 minutes. Should be fresh. Had a great end of the first quarter. 11 straight points for the Suns. All came via Kevin Durant. Nick Richards only played 24 minutes. All the guys. Bradley Beal, 28 minutes. And you go in, and then you embarrass yourself in Portland. When you don't have the built-in excuse. You didn't play a tough contest the night before that was a brawl for 4 quarters that came down to who had the ball last. You ran away with this thing in the third quarter. So you didn't have that built-in excuse, and you played the way that you played on Friday, or Saturday, in Portland. And so now I have to take those 2 pieces of data and I have to try to tell you what this team should do this week. I have to look at this schedule and say, what is the likely scenario for the Phoenix Suns? And unfortunately, it's just like it was last week. 2-2. I think 2-2 by beating Portland and Utah and losing to Oklahoma City and Denver. At that, you haven't hurt yourself. You hurt yourself if you lose to Portland again tonight. You hurt yourself if you lose to Utah at home. That's when you start to hurt yourself. Because for every Portland loss, you then have to make it up by beating an Oklahoma City. So you beat Golden State on Friday, you don't even get to reap the rewards of that because then you gave it away when you played Portland. See, if you beat Portland on Friday or on Saturday, that Golden State win means a little bit more. You get to stick it in your back pocket. Instead, it's a wash. So if you lose to Portland tonight, you then have to make it up somewhere. You got to beat Oklahoma City in Oklahoma City. You got to beat Denver. You have to find a win over one of these good teams. And I'm sorry, I'm not sure if I believe that you're going to be able to do that consistently enough. You beat Golden State. Golden State's not Oklahoma City. Golden State's not Denver. So a 2-2 week at least doesn't hurt yourself. A 2-2 week by beating Portland and beating Utah allows you to not lose ground in the standings. But if you lose tonight to Portland, if you lose late in the week to Utah, that's when you start to just give, because then you have to find one. You have to find one against Houston. You have to find one against San Antonio. You have to find one against Memphis. All these teams that we just told you, the next part of the schedule is really difficult. They've got to find one.